Hello friends, now I am going to demonstrate how to examine the cardiovascular system. In the examination of cardiovascular system, you should remember 4 things. One is inspection, palpation, percussion and auscultation. Now first we will talk about the inspection. Inspection is what we see in the subject. We should not touch the subject in inspection. We should only see and observe the findings. Now we should see the shape of the chest. On inspection we should see the shape of the chest if it is bilaterally symmetrical, and we should also see if there are any skeletal deformities and if there are any engorged veins over the chest area. And also we should look for the position of trachea. You should ask the subject to raise the head and try to observe the position of trachea. All these things you have to do without touching the subject on inspection. We should look for the shape of the chest and if it is bilaterally symmetrical, and you should observe for any engorged veins over the chest area, and you should also look for the position of trachea. You should only look, you should not palpate, you should only look and see if the trachea is in central position. And you should also see for the apex beat. If the subject is very thin, you will be able to appreciate the apex beat also, which is present in the 5th intercostal space, 1 inch medial to the mid-clavicular line. So on inspection, what are the things you are going to see? Size of the chest, shape, and if any skeletal deformities are present, and if there are any engorged veins over the chest area, and you should also look for the position of trachea and for the apex beat. So these are the things you have to look for in inspection. Now you see the shape of the chest is normal and it seems to be bilaterally symmetrical, and the position of trachea seems to be central, and you can also see the apex beat. So and you don't see any engorged veins. Engorged veins denote that there is some superior vena cava or inferior vena cava obstruction. If at all there is any superior vena cava or inferior vena cava obstruction, you will see engorged veins because the drainage of blood will be disturbed. So there will be backflow of the blood that will cause the engorged veins over the chest area. Now you don't see any engorged veins over here, so it is absolutely normal. These are the findings you have to look for in inspection. Now coming to the palpation. In palpation, you have to confirm the inspectory findings. Whatever you have seen in inspection, you have to confirm on palpation. See, you have confirmed that you have seen that the shape of the chest is bilaterally symmetrical. It is not abnormal. It is bilaterally symmetrical on inspection. Now you have to confirm this on palpation, and you should also see for the respiratory movements. Now to confirm the shape of the chest to be bilaterally symmetrical, you place your hands around the chest and see that the thumbs are placed in front of the chest, and you ask the subject to take deep breath. And when you ask the subject to take deep breath, always ask the subject to turn to the opposite side. Now you place your hands around the chest and see that the thumbs are opposing each other, and ask the subject to take deep breath. Deep breath. Deep breath. When the subject is taking deep breath, you can see that the thumbs are being moved apart and they are moving equally on both sides. That confirms that the chest is bilaterally symmetrical. It is not expanding one side more or one side less. It is bilaterally symmetrical and it is expanding both sides equally. This confirms that the chest is expanding on both sides equally. We just observe once more. Deep breath. So you can see the movement of the thumbs. The thumbs are being moved apart equally on both sides. So this is to confirm that the chest is bilaterally symmetrical on palpation. Now coming to the position of trachea on palpation. To palpate the trachea, first you try to palpate the suprasternal notch, and with your ring and index finger you place your ring and index finger on either side of the suprasternal notch, that is on the clavicular part. You place these two fingers on either side of the suprasternal notch, and with your middle finger you palpate the tracheal rings. Gently you palpate the tracheal rings and you confirm that the trachea is centrally placed. If at all the trachea is deviated, your finger with which you are palpating the tracheal rings will be deviated to one side. But here you can see that the finger, when you are palpating the tracheal rings, it is always in the center up to the suprasternal notch. So you can say that the trachea is in central position. Now coming to the apex beat. Apex beat is normally present in the 5th intercostal space, medial to the mid-clavicular line, 1/2 inch medial to the mid-clavicular line. First you have to locate the apex beat with the palm of your hand. You know it is located in the 5th intercostal space and you have to locate it with the palm of the hand. Once you feel the apical impulse with your palm, you try to locate it with the ulnar border. First you locate it with the palm of the hand, then you localize it to the ulnar border of your hand. Once you feel that pulse in the ulnar border of the hand and try to localize it to the finger. Try to localize the apical impulse with the finger. And wherever you find the apical impulse, you just make a mark. So first you have palpated the apex beat with your palm, then you have localized it to the ulnar border, then you have localized it to the one finger. Now wherever you are able to feel the apical impulse, you just make a mark so that you will count the ribs and you will confirm that it is not abnormal, it is placed in the normal position, that is in the 5th intercostal space medial to the mid-clavicular line. To confirm it that it is in the normal position, you have to count the intercostal spaces. For that you have to percuss each intercostal space and come up to this mark to see if it is placed in the 5th intercostal space. So this is how you have to locate the apex beat and count the ribs so that it is confirmed that it is placed in the normal position. Now this is about the apex beat. And if at all there are any engorged veins over the chest, here you don't see any engorged veins, but if at all there are any engorged veins, you should try to see the direction of flow of blood in those engorged veins. For example, if you find an engorged vein over here, then you place your finger on the upper side of the engorged vein. So for example, if you find an engorged vein in this area up to this length, then you place your two fingers on the upper end of the engorged vein and try to pull the lower finger downwards so as to empty the engorged vein. You are emptying the engorged vein by moving the finger downwards with pressure, so that this vein, which engorged vein, is emptied. Now after the vein is being emptied, you just remove the or you lift the upper finger. First you place your two fingers over the engorged vein, upper end of the engorged vein, and slowly move your lower finger downwards so as to empty the engorged vein. After you have emptied the vein, you lift your upper finger. If you see the blood filling into the vein, you have now you have emptied the vein, isn't it? After lifting the finger, if at all you see that the blood is being filled in the vein, that shows that there is superior vena cava obstruction, because in superior vena cava obstruction, blood flows above downwards, because it is not being drained into the larger veins, and from larger veins it is not being drained into the superior vena cava. So because there is obstruction at the superior vena cava, since there is obstruction at the superior vena cava, blood from the large veins is not flowing into the right atrium, because there is obstruction at the superior vena cava. So it is coming backwards. That is why the veins are engorged. And to confirm or to see if it is superior vena cava or inferior vena cava obstruction, you have to look for the direction of flow. And if at all you have to see if it is inferior vena cava obstruction, then you select the same engorged vein and you place your 2 fingers in the lower end of the vein now. For superior vena cava obstruction, you were placing your 2 fingers over the upper end. Now you place the 2 fingers over the lower end. Here you don't see any engorged veins, but if at all you see any engorged veins, how to confirm if it is superior vena cava or inferior vena cava obstruction, I am explaining you this. See, if you see the engorged vein here, you place your 2 fingers over the lower part of the vein and slowly move your upper finger upwards and try to empty the vein, engorged vein. Now you lift your lower finger. When you have lifted your lower finger, if at all it is a inferior vena cava obstruction, blood will fill into the veins. So in superior vena cava obstruction, there will be the flow of blood will be above downwards. Inferior vena cava obstruction, it will be below upwards. In this way you can confirm if it is a superior vena cava or inferior vena cava obstruction. And in palpation, you should always palpate for any thrills. Thrill is nothing but palpable murmur. So you have to palpate all over the precordium. Precordium is the area which is overlying the heart. Precordium is the area of the chest wall which is overlying the heart. The whole chest wall is not precordium. The area which is overlying the heart is precordium. So you place your palm in all areas of the precordium and try to feel for any thrill. If there are any murmurs on auscultation, you will hear the murmurs, whereas on palpation, if you are able to palpate that murmur, then that is called thrill. So these are the things you are going to see in palpation. Now coming to the percussion. There are some rules for percussion. One is you have to use 2 hands for percussion. One is the hand which you are placing over the organ you are percussing. And the first rule is this is called pleximeter. The hand which you are placing over the organ you are percussing is called pleximeter. And the hand which you are using to hit over the pleximeter is plexar, or this finger is plexar. So your first rule is you should see that the pleximeter is placed firmly over the organ to be percussed. There should not be any gap between the hand and the organ you are percussing. So it should be firmly placed. That is the first rule. And when you are percussing with your plexar, you should see that the movement should be at the wrist and the finger, not at the elbow. See, the percussion should be like this. The movement is at the finger joint and wrist joint. It should not be like this. Elbow joint should not move. Only the fingers and the wrist joint should move. This is the pleximeter and this is plexar. So first rule is that the pleximeter should be placed firmly over the organ you are percussing. And the second rule is you have to make a movement at the wrist joint, not at the elbow joint. And the long axis of the pleximeter should be parallel to the organ you are percussing. That is another rule of percussion. The long axis of the pleximeter should be parallel to the organ you are percussing. And whenever you are percussing, you remove your finger after you percuss once. You don't leave your finger over there after percussing, because that will obliterate the vibrations and you will not be able to appreciate the resonant note. That is another rule. You have to remove your finger after you percuss, so that you will be able to appreciate the vibrations and you will be able to appreciate the resonant note also. So now I will show how to percuss. See, first you have to locate the second intercostal space. For that you have to palpate the sternum. You will see an elevation here. See, this is the sternum up to here, and here at the junction you will see an elevation, manubrium sterni. This junction will correspond to the, this elevation will correspond to the second rib or second costal cartilage. Below that will be the second intercostal space. See, this is the elevation and this corresponds to the second costal cartilage, and below that is the second intercostal space. So if you percuss over the second intercostal space, you will appreciate the resonant note. Then below that will be the third ring, and below that is the third intercostal space. So in this way you have to percuss and try to locate the apical impulse also here during percussion. And another rule of percussion is you have to always percuss from the resonant note to the dull note, or resonant area to the dull area. See here, since lung is present here, you will see, you will be able to appreciate the resonant note. This is the manubrium sterni, and that corresponds to the second costal cartilage, and below that will be the second intercostal space. You will be able to appreciate the resonant note. Then third intercostal space. You can practice this at home with any of your siblings and try to appreciate the resonant note and dull note. And percussion is essentially done to identify the borders of the heart. As you know, the right border is present extends from the third intercostal space to the fifth intercostal space on the right side, whereas left heart border will begin from the second costal cartilage up to the fifth intercostal space. That means the heart is in this shape. It is, right border is beginning at the third costal cartilage, and left border is at the second costal cartilage. This is the third costal cartilage and this is the second costal cartilage, left border of the heart. Then left border is extending up to the fifth intercostal space, and right border is extending up to the fifth intercostal space on the right side. So to confirm these borders, to see if there is any enlargement of the heart, to confirm that the heart is in normal size, you have to percuss from the resonant note to the dull note. If at all you find begin from the resonant note and start percussing. See, this is the third intercostal space. As soon as the heart begins, at the area where the heart begins, the note will change into dull note. There are four types of note. One is resonant, hyperresonant, dull and stony dull. But here in cardiovascular system examination, resonant and dull note are important, whereas in respiratory system you have to appreciate the hyperresonant and stony dull note also. But here resonant and dull, if you understand the resonant and dull, it is enough, because you have to differentiate. You should be able to differentiate between the resonant and the dull note. Then only you will confirm the borders of the heart. See, first you are percussing from the resonant area to the dull area. See, till here it was resonant. Now as the heart has begun here, since it is a solid organ, you will see the dull note here, and same on the left side also. You start percussing from the resonant area, and wherever the heart begins, there you will find the dull note. So this is how the percussion is done. And you should remember, you should always stand on the right side of the subject when you are examining, and whenever you are asking the subject to take deep breath, you ask the subject to turn the face towards the opposite side. So this was about percussion.